What would you do if, after 8 years of never hiding anything from you, your wife suddenly locked the bathroom door and whispered someone else's name while the shower ran? The sound of the water hitting tile was loud enough to mask most of it, but not all. I stood there in the hallway of our apartment on West 47th Street in Manhattan, staring at that closed door like it had just grown teeth. Her voice, soft, breathy, intimate in a way I hadn't heard directed at me in months. "I miss you too," she said. My chest tightened so hard it felt like my ribs were collapsing inward. I didn't knock. I didn't speak. I just stood there, frozen, listening to the woman I had built my entire life around talk to someone else like I no longer existed. And when the water shut off and the silence hit, I realized something terrifying. That was the first time she had ever locked me out. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel, tell us where you're from, and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. I didn't confront her that night. That's the thing about betrayal. When it first shows itself, your brain refuses to accept it. You scramble for logic, for excuses. Maybe she was talking to a friend. Maybe I misheard. Maybe I was paranoid. But deep down, I knew. Emily had never locked that door before. Not once in 8 years. The next morning, she acted normal. Too normal. "Morning," she said, sipping her coffee like nothing had changed. I studied her face across the kitchen table. Same smile. Same voice. Same woman. But something behind her eyes had shifted. "Rough night?" I asked. She shrugged. "Couldn't sleep much." "Lie." I nodded slowly, forcing a smile. "Yeah, me neither." From that moment on, everything became a pattern. She started coming home later. Said work at the marketing firm on Madison Avenue was getting intense. Meetings. Deadlines. Clients. Her phone was always face down. She began taking it into the bathroom. And the locks, they became routine. Every time that click echoed through our apartment, it felt like a door slamming shut inside my chest. One night, she came home smelling different. Not like her usual perfume. Something heavier, colder, masculine, new fragrance. I asked casually. She paused, just for a second too long. "Yeah, one of the girls at work recommended it." Another lie. I started noticing everything after that. Receipts she forgot to throw away. A dinner for two at a place in Soho. Balthazar. On a night, she told me she was working late. A charge for valet parking at a hotel on Lexington Avenue. She didn't even own a car. My hands shook as I held that receipt. That was the night the humiliation hit me. Not anger. Not yet. Just humiliation. Because while I was sitting at home, reheating leftovers, wondering if she was safe, she was out there with someone else. Laughing, eating, touching. I couldn't breathe. But I didn't explode. I got smarter. I started checking phone records. Call logs. Numbers she dialed repeatedly late at night. One number stood out. Saved under nothing. I called it from a blocked line. A man answered. "Hello." His voice was calm, confident. I hung up immediately, my heart hammering in my throat. That voice stayed in my head. I followed her 2 days later. She said she had a client dinner near Tribeca. I waited 10 minutes, then left the apartment. It didn't take long. She wasn't at any restaurant. She was standing outside the Ludlow Hotel on East Houston Street. And she wasn't alone. He was taller than me, well-dressed, smug in a way you could see even from across the street. She smiled at him the way she used to smile at me. And then she kissed him. Not a mistake. Not hesitation. A kiss that said this had been happening for a long time. Something inside me broke right there on that sidewalk. I wanted to run across the street, drag him away, scream at her. But I didn't. Because in that moment, I realized something. If I reacted now, I'd lose everything. So I stepped back into the shadows and watched them walk into the hotel together. And that's when I decided. I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to destroy her. The next few weeks, I became someone else. Quiet, observant, calculated. I hired a private investigator. Expensive, but worth every dollar. Photos came in. Hotel entrances. Dinner dates. Her hand on his chest. His arm around her waist. There was no denying it. His name was Daniel Carter. Investment banker. Married. That made it even better. I started building a case. Not just for divorce, but for total annihilation. Emily thought she was untouchable. She got colder by the day. "You've been distant," I told her one night. She rolled her eyes. "Maybe because you're always hovering. It's suffocating." Suffocating. That word echoed in my head long after she went to bed. She had no idea what suffocation really felt like. I moved money quietly, opened a separate account, spoke to a lawyer in Midtown, one of the best. We prepared everything. Infidelity evidence, financial records, timelines. Then I took it further. I found Daniel's wife. Her name was Rebecca. I didn't tell her immediately. I waited. I gathered enough proof that when I showed her, it wouldn't just hurt. It would end everything. The day came on a Friday. Emily thought she was going to another client dinner. Daniel thought he was meeting her at the same hotel. Instead, I had arranged something else. A small private room at a restaurant near Central Park. Rebecca was already there when I arrived. She looked nervous. "I don't understand why you asked to meet," she said. I placed the folder in front of her. "Because our spouses do." She opened it, and as she flipped through the photos, her face collapsed. Tears came fast. Silent. Devastating. "I'm so sorry," I said quietly. She looked up at me, broken. "What do we do?" I leaned back in my chair. "We make sure they never do this to anyone again." At 8:12 p.m., Emily walked into that restaurant. She froze when she saw me. Then she saw Rebecca. And then Daniel walked in behind her and stopped dead in his tracks. The silence was suffocating. "Sit down," I said calmly. Emily's voice trembled. "What is this?" I slid the photos across the table. Her hands shook as she looked at them. Daniel didn't even try to deny it. Rebecca stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You're disgusting," she whispered before walking out. Emily turned to me, panic rising in her eyes. "I can explain." "No," I said softly. "You can't." The divorce papers were served the next morning. Daniel's firm found out within a week. Affairs with married clients' spouses. Not a good look. He lost his job. Emily lost everything. The apartment. The savings. The reputation she had built so carefully. Friends stopped calling. Her family ashamed. She tried reaching out to me months later. A message. "I made a mistake. Please, can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I deleted it. Because the woman I loved didn't exist anymore. Maybe she never did. I moved out of Manhattan eventually. New city. New life. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear that lock clicking shut. And I remember exactly when everything ended. It wasn't when she cheated. It was when she thought I would never find out. The end.